I'm assuming, I don't know that this is a good assumption, but I am hopeful that, well, here we go. Here we go. I was about to say that they will come and tell us when we're live, but I just saw the notification that we are.
Oh, all right.
Wow, that does sound good, guys.
It does. It sounds great. Now, how do I find it on YouTube? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, YouTube right there.
Here we go.
We should be good to go.
Got it.
We have an addition. Do you notice the addition to our production team here?
Yes. I noticed that
Ed Cashin helping out
on
with the,
Sunday and said he wanted to help out.
Stuff. So we're grateful for that. Hey, we're glad that you are with us today. We are here for our normal Wednesday night class. We'll start it looks like we got about 3 minutes before we start properly. But as you may remember, that we are kind of working towards having kind of a grand reopening on campus here on March 21st for worship. And so our production team has really been hard at work, kind of getting all that lined up. And so today we're experimenting a little bit.
Yeah. So here's my question: Are you watching this on Facebook or YouTube? You're watching it on Facebook. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm
there
on
for the comments.
Yeah.
So no one's watching the YouTube comments.
So should we do that? We can do that.
Well, if you can do it on your computer.
Yeah, man, we can do that.
It doesn't show up really well on the phone.
Yeah. Okay.
Even when you're signed in, it's weird. It's like it doesn't show the comments.
Let's see this. We're gonna catch this, and that way. So, because one of the changes that Ryland's pointing out here is that when when we broadcast, in the system that we've been using for months at this point.
Yeah. A year.
We
almost.
Normally, we have on the computer in front of us that we're broadcasting. We're kind of managing it all, and so we get to see everybody's comments. Like that system would bring it
brings in. It brings in comments from Periscope and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all into one place.
One feed. Yeah, that's right. But that's not the way it works here.
No.
Now, let's see. I probably should move my backpack and all that. That's a little close on the shot.
It's messy. It's a bit messy. We got a lot of stuff, and usually we're filming from in front of all that stuff.
That's
and
true.
No one can see it.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Good evening, Joe and Linda. I hope you are doing well today. Miss Danny, glad that you joined us as well. We're glad that you guys are tuning in tonight. And in just a moment, you'll grab your Bible. We're going to start in about a minute and a half here.
I'm turning mine off. It looks like
you're turning your Bible off?
I'm turning the Bible on.
Oh, because you need to use the Bible
YouTube off.
On your
yeah.
That's why you needed something else with the comments, too. I see now.
Yeah, it's helpful.
It is helpful in doing a Bible study that we have.
The Bible.
That we have the Bible.
The Bible.
That's right.
2 Thessalonians.
Yeah. 2 Thessalonians.
It's a short book.
We're just
going to read the whole thing?
Thessalonians Deuce is what we're going to be. Miss Pam Brandon.
Dose.
Hope you're doing well. Glad that you're joining us tonight as well. So,
happy birthday, Danny.
It's Danny's birthday.
Danny's birthday.
It is Danny's birthday, and that means it's also her brother's birthday.
Yeah.
So happy birthday, Danny, and happy birthday, Michael. I'm glad that you both were born. Okay, so good job with that. Which we really should say, happy birthday to Danny and Michael, and good job, Miss Julie, because she actually, played a pretty significant role in that process.
Somewhat.
In that process too. So I was backing off. I probably should be attentive to. I'm sure that changes how loud the microphone is.
Yeah, we are not used to this, but I've heard that we sound good.
You've heard that?
I've heard we sound great.
Who did you hear that from?
It was Bob just said it 5 minutes ago.
in the early testings.
Or Rob, Rob or Bob. I don't remember who told us that.
I'm not sure how long the delay is in what we see here from. There you go.
I just said it.
Yeah.
It's saying what I just said.
I was about to say, what we could do is I could clap, and then we'll see it show up, in a few minutes.
You think it will say that you clapped if you clap? Will that come through on the
closed captioning?
On the closed captioning?
You want to try?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. Hey, Rob's in there going, please don't clap in front of the microphone.
I have headphones on.
I'm wearing the headphones at the feed.
Okay. It's taken a while.
Oh, there it is.
No,
that was pretty quick.
Dead. Oh, look, they're switching cameras. Uh-oh. Oh, no, we're good.
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
Probably
all
missed
right.
it.
Well, greetings, churchlings, David Calvin says, and we say right back at you with that. Greetings to the Calvins as well.
Yeah.
And we're going to be in 2 Thessalonians, so I think we're good. Let's see, it's 6:32, my friend, so daylight is wasting.
Everyone who's coming is here.
Yeah, that's not necessarily true. We don't know that.
That's not, yeah, I just...
But nonetheless, it is.
Everyone who's coming that was interested in being here on time is here.
Yeah. All right. So in 2 Thessalonians, we're of course just as a reminder, what we've been doing is looking at the spirituality of the Apostle Paul, and we're doing that through his different letters primarily. And as we look through the different letters, we're kind of looking for particularly things, we've said this, praying with Paul is the title, right? And so we particularly have been picking up things in the prayers that he records and when he speaks about his prayers to the different disciples. But we also want to just kind of observe in some of the letters some other elements of his spirituality. And so we're gonna pick up some of those notes here at the very beginning in the prayers, but then we're gonna work out of that to some other stuff, particularly in the in 2 Thessalonians. Okay, this is a short book. We kind of well, at first we were like, we'll cover each book in 1 week, and then
I think we can do this one in 1 week.
It's very possible, but not if we keep doing all this prologue.
All right.
So why don't you start, my friend?
Well, you got to tell what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them, and then you tell them again. That's how you preach.
Well, I guess you could cut one of those out if you needed.
for a
sake of
Bible class.
Yeah, right. Okay. So why don't you read those first few verses? Yeah.
Paul, Silvanus, and Timothy to the church of the Thessalonians in God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ.
We must always give thanks to God for you. What an interesting way of saying that.
It's an imperative. We must always.
We must always. Yeah.
Because, but there's a because. It's
as is right, because your faith is growing abundantly, and the love of every one of you for each other, of every one of you for one another, is increasing. And therefore we ourselves boast of you among the churches of God for your steadfastness and faith during all your persecutions and the afflictions that you are enduring. Which is a pretty significant picture of a community, right? Mm-hmm. So let's stop here, and we won't maybe spend as much on this prologue as we do in some other places, but let's talk about what he identifies here. Now, obviously, there's some themes. It is unusual that he puts that must in there, which is not typical for what we've seen in Paul's other letters.
Yeah, I like it. He's got this reason, right, is because they're growing, and he attaches two things to that, not just praying for God, but he's got like, we must always give thanks to God for you, and then afterwards there's also a therefore, and they're also boasting to other churches and people about these guys, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. He speaks about the way that kinds of things he tells other people, which is a great way of giving a compliment. Yeah. If you, sometimes I make a point of, like when I've been working with some kids on a soccer team or something like that, that I will make sure and compliment the child to the parents in front of the child, so that the child, the kid will see me saying to his parent, "Man, he was really working hard today," or he was really paying attention to what we were trying to talk about different things. Because that's a different kind of receiving a compliment. Like, it's one thing to say to the kid, and that's obviously you need to do that kind of stuff too, affirm children in that way. But man, how good is it for a parent to hear those things about their child, and then to also for the child to hear the parent receiving that compliment? Like that. A kid, while you're doing that, like a kid just beams.
Yeah,
right?
Those kids know. They're like, Stephen will lie to me, but he won't lie to my parents.
Yeah.
So I must have really done a good job.
That's right. It's not just talk.
See, parents tell me, grown-ups tell me lies all the time. Like, no, there's no candy in that drawer or whatever. It's like, yeah. But when you're telling their parents, they know it's a true compliment.
I'm so curious about your experience with the particular lie, either receiving or giving it. But,
oh man.
But I also tell this. Sometimes I find myself saying in conversation with people, I was talking about you the other day with so and so, and telling them that I think you've been doing a really excellent job with,
Yeah, that's a great compliment.
Yeah. there have been times when I've sent emails to school administrators to, I guess.
It died.
Yeah, that system was only valid as long as the
We didn't plug it in.
laptop had battery. Yeah. I've sent letters to school administrators. I'm not closed captioning. What's the other CC? Carbon copying. CCing like a teacher and saying, hey, by the way, I want you to know I think this teacher is doing an exceptional job of in naming 2 or 3 things.
Yeah.
And then so it's it's a compliment to their boss, which everybody loves you to compliment to their boss, right? But it also is a way of like saying it in front of them too, so that they can really hear feedback. I think that's kind of what Paul's doing here, right? Like he wants to call out something that's important about their behavior, and he wants to do it in a way that really will make them feel like that's part of their reputation. Like you're when you begin to believe that this is an important way that you want other people to see you, like that kind of says something, right? And I think in this text, specifically what he says about the other churches is it's their steadfastness and their faith during their persecutions and their afflictions, their endurance, their things, their ability to continue in the face of some hard times. How important, particularly when you're going through something like that, I mean, that's an important time to have your faith affirmed, right? For Paul to say to these folks, hey, I recognize that you're going through like a really, really difficult time. And in the midst of that, I think you are, I want you to know that I see it. I see it so much that I tell other people. I'm not just saying this to you. I'm telling other people that I'm working with. I'm in this city working with a church, and I tell them, you should see those Thessalonian Christians, how faithful they are in the face of things that are hard.
Do we know what was happening to the Thessalonians?
No, we don't. We don't in particular. As far as we know, this is not during the period of like official imperial persecution. But during the first century, first and second centuries, there were pockets of like I don't know if sometimes it is official, okay, where there's some kind of governor in that area that is pressing, and sometimes that comes all the way from the top, from the highest levels of the empire, from the emperor or whoever. But more often it was like, the governor in this area found the Christians to be a nuisance or distasteful or something like that.
We know from other letters that there were like metalsmiths and people that made idols and things that would persecute Christians, right?
Yeah, there's that story
like businessmen
in Ephesus about that in the book of Acts, so it may be there were lots of forms of kind of what we would think of as like soft persecution, where there maybe wasn't like an official governmental policy, but maybe there was some kind of religious cult that was envious that they had kind of taken people out, or maybe it was some family members that didn't care for them to have converted and kind of moved away from their traditional, relationships, or maybe it was because there were people that were offended by the teachings of the church in different ways. I mean, there's lots of different ways that this can shake out. Right. Whether they're being treated with suspicion, or they're like, it became harder for them to get the kind of permits that they needed, kind of governmental permissions to do certain things. I mean, seriously, like that's the kind of stuff that happens in a lot of places, even in the world today, is like. Persecution comes, bureaucratic persecution is like a real thing, right? And all of a sudden, I knew of a church that some friends went to, and it just took forever for them to get like the lights turned on in their building, because the government just didn't really want them there, and there was no like law against it. I mean, officially there's no persecution, right? But it's just people kind of drug their feet doing, you know what I mean? And that sort of thing. And we don't really know. It may have been very much harder than that. It may have been physical persecution because of some perceived transgression of law, or culture or whatever. But we don't really know. Okay, what we do know is that there were outside people who were making things hard for them, and they were persecuting them, and these people kept their faith. In the midst of this difficult challenge to their life. And really, that's enough, right?
Yeah.
Because
right.
That's enough so that it can kind of speak to us in lots of different situations that we might encounter that we might find to be similar. Let's back up just a second.
Yeah.
Before that.
Well, I have the
ahead.
whole beginning of this is a little bit weird to me. The first section where he repeats. This is one of those weird he's got a bunch of to and in and it's hard to follow his
hard
sentence.
to follow chain of prepositions.
Yeah. And for some reason in my Bible, the church of the Thessalonians is capitalized, the two, and I don't understand why they did that.
Yeah, I can't tell
Also,
that.
it says, in God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ, which I don't understand. And then he repeats that phrase 3 or 4 words later, which sounds kind of awkward to us. And I don't think you have your Greek Bible, so I don't know if you could tell if it's
okay.
that awkward in Greek or if that was just...
You mean the God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ?
Yeah. I mean, I see how you wouldn't want to be grace to you and peace from them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at that.
It was just interesting to me. That was the first thing I read, and I paused and I thought he just
seems like this kind of repetitiveness.
Phrase twice, and he didn't try to spruce it up with a different word or something.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But then we get into the really interesting stuff, which is we must always give thanks to God.
We are compelled. Yeah, we're compelled to give thanks. Paul is speaking of this kind of rising within him as a compulsion, okay? Something he is obligated to do. Yeah. We are obligated to give thanks to God for you. And then he goes on to say, to underline that, he says, as is right. It is good and right, and we have to. We are compelled to give thanks to you. Mm-hmm. And this is why. Because your faith is, and these are the things that I'm really interested in, because your faith is growing abundantly. Okay, so it's not just later he's going to say the endurance of your faith, right? The steadfastness for your steadfastness and faith during your persecutions and the afflictions that you're enduring, that your faith is getting you through. But their faith isn't just getting them through in this persecution. And this is really astonishing. Their faith is actually being increased.
Right.
So this is a group of people who, even though they're encountering these difficulties, it's not just that their faith is being sustained. It's actually growing. The difficulties, and I'll tell you what, I definitely have known people who, when they're going through something hard, they lean more on the Lord, mm-hmm. right? And it becomes evident that their faith actually, balloons, it blossoms while they're suffering something. There's a maxim. That which does not kill you
only makes you stronger.
That's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love for that to be true.
Yeah.
I would love for that to be true. But there are a lot of people. So that saying is meant to say, when you endure something hard, yeah. You'll come through it on the other end. You'll come through this stronger. Yeah. And of course, I would love for that to be universally true, and it's just not, right?
No.
Because there are people who I feel like this is like a dirty little secret. I almost feel embarrassed saying this, but there are people who encounter hardship and they shrivel up.
Yeah.
They just kind of fold.
Well, just the fact that you go through the pain of a knee or ankle injury and you can't run anymore, and that did not make you stronger. Now that you can't run.
Well, or perhaps you didn't perhaps you didn't do the therapy correctly. And
yeah. And that wouldn't have been fun either. But
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that was a kind of a little too. It wasn't the kind of struggle that we're talking about here.
Well, no,
right?
but that's the same sort of thing, right? Like you can go through some kind of hardship, and it doesn't necessarily make you stronger on the other side. Mm-hmm. It only makes you stronger on the other side if you go through it with the right kind of posture, and determination. And if you are hardening yourself and like really determining yourself, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to let it like when you have the mentality, this is going to make me stronger. Okay. Yeah. And you lean on the right things and you put your perspective, like you travel with the perspective of it all. Well, then yes, it will. It can. It very much can make you stronger, but it's not a given. It's just not a given, right? Mm-hmm. It can also make you resentful, right? Like you can go through hard things and kind of come on the other side of it, and feel like you're so beaten up. Bad things always happen to me. Woe is me, and embittered, and you can kind of make the things that have happened to you that were difficult kind of the excuse. Well, you can imagine this for like a persecuted church, right? Well, we really wish we could witness, be more of a witness of our faith, but we're just getting all this heat, this opposition. We wish we could talk about our faith more, but it's just been really hard lately. You know what I mean? Like you can see that kind of thing being a real challenge, and there are a lot of people like this. But Paul is being grateful here for the Thessalonian church because they're not taking that path. Instead, they're taking the path that does, like these persecutions are enhancing their faith, and it's growing. It says your faith is growing abundantly. So their faith is kind of like exponential, like growing off the charts, even though they're in the middle of something difficult. That's pretty.
And
neat.
I think that's partly because they have each other as well, right? I mean, it's not just like one person that he's writing to that this stuff is happening.
Well, that's the culture of the community.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to get through that stuff when you have someone struggling with you.
Yeah.
When you're not alone.
That's really interesting that you're saying that, because everything I've said was like individually focused, and you're really right to point to that as being like a communal thing too, because the same thing, like communities can become stronger and weaker when hardships come too.
Yeah, but I think it's easier maybe for a community to get through a hardship than
if they're like encouraging and supporting each other.
No, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, but there's definitely another way it can go.
Yeah.
There are definitely hardships that scatter communities and make them kind of suspicious of each other. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah. Or even things that shouldn't be hardships that spring up inside the community itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're right to point to that. I think about think about the last year, and we've had to endure some challenges. We were talking on the way over here about I feel like I can never use the word normal to describe anything.
It's gonna be a while.
All my ideas of normalcy are just messed up. You
could just say this is so 2019 normal. Probably say something like that.
This is normal circa 2015. Yeah, right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. But so we've had some stuff that we've kind of endured, and there are ways that I think I'm stronger because of it, and then there's other places that, I'm sure that I've picked up some bad habits, because of it too, and I think that's probably true of the communities too. We're really, I was about to say anxious, but that's not the right word. I'm eager for us to rejoin worship, okay? Because part of it is I want to just see where we're at, and just to be real frank, there's lots of things that I honestly don't know. When we resume worship, what's it going to mean for us to get back into the grooves of recognizing people and and being bound together? That's a maybe there are some things that I'm anxious about. I really don't. I refrain from using that word a lot because normally it's not genuinely what I feel. But there are some things that when I kind of wonder about them, they could very easily turn into anxiousness, within me, and that's not really where I want to be. I want to be in a place of eagerness, and I think primarily I am. Just my disposition is kind of, I'm an eager beaver man. I'm just like, kind of wired that way.
No one knew that about you.
Like, it's really easy for me. Like, when I make a video, say I'm really excited for us to come back on worship. Like, I mean, it really is true. Like,
you don't have to fake it.
Really excited about it.
Steven's not faking it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about like eating lunch tomorrow.
Don't say that, because then when you say you're excited about people coming, they'll be like, he's just like as excited as
it's a problem.
lunch.
It's really, it's an issue. but you see what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's this part of me that has this like eagerness to like resume and kind of be back about the kind of normal business of building our community and but there's a part of me that has this kind of like I don't really know. Here's what I'm saying. I don't really know what the transformative effect of the last year has been yet. We can't know that. So I think we're probably 90% to the end of this pandemic thing that we've had to endure.
Right.
Okay. I think sometimes you go through something like that and you have to look in the rearview mirror and like it's changed you, but you don't yet know all the ways how. Right?
Yeah. It'll be a while.
And it'll take it's not just time, but it'll take some like discernment and some intentional reflection. Like I've really tried to give a lot of thought to, like, in this time of pandemic, like what are those places that the pandemic has either changed us for good or bad, or revealed virtues and vices that were there from the beginning, that were there before it. That this is kind of just giving them the opportunity to kind of say, like, well, what about it?
Yeah.
There's certain virtues or vices that you don't really, you may not really recognize within a community or an individual because they need like some kind of venue to the expression of it. Like, how does a community really know they're courageous unless they're really faced
or some
with
catalyst
something fearful?
that starts that.
Yeah.
That whatever the virtue or vice is.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Like,
really
I mean, are you really you don't think of yourself as a greedy person, but then you start playing the stock market for like 15 minutes.
Or
like, how can I get this thing to rise one more penny?
All the toilet paper selling out at Kroger.
Yes,
you
right.
buy the last 15.
Yeah, you don't think of yourself as like a covetous person, but like last March, all of a sudden you're going down to the grocery store and somebody else had like some Clorox wipes, and they're like the last group.
You
and
wait
you're
till
like,
they're not looking.
Man, yes, yeah, that's right. I mean, you may not think of thieving, the integrity of theft, but then you're in hard times, and you feel the desperation of it. Like, what I'm saying? Like, there's those opportunities, and for virtue too. Like, you may not think of yourself as being particularly sacrificial, but then you're in a place where you and your neighbor are dealing with like strained resources, and all of a sudden you have the opportunity to kind of demonstrate that virtue of self-sacrifice, right? I don't know. So I've really tried to pay attention to that over the last year, and that's the revelation part of it, like what's been revealed. Okay, which, by the way, I think that's part of what happened. I think that's part of literally the meaning of Revelation, like the book of Revelation, the apocalypse it is an unveiling. And part of what's being unveiled is the true character of the people that are kind of resisting the empire for the sake of Jesus. They're resisting Satan for the sake of Jesus. And like, they seem like puny, pathetic losers, but Revelation is kind of saying, oh, no. These are like the real, legit, courageous people, who are richly rewarded by God, Anyway, here, let's come back to the text.
Okay.
We're so far away from the text.
We did.
But part of what's happening here is that, to kind of bring this home, part of Paul's spirituality is recognizing these things in people.
Yeah.
Okay? It is saying, in this community with which he has a relationship, this Thessalonian church, Paul has this part of his spirituality is to look at that community and look beyond the surface at what's happening. So notice he doesn't just say, I'm praying for you because I know things are hard and I pray that you'll be delivered from your persecutions. Like, that's where I would start the prayer.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You know,
And
let
that's
these
what we do.
persecutions stop. You know.
Yeah.
But he instead begins by saying, and I'm sure Paul did pray for those things too, like praying for people to have relief in hardship and stuff. But Paul doesn't just start there, because his spirituality is like heavily driven by what's happening in the souls of people.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know if Paul does pray for those things to stop. So the second half of this chapter is about that, right? And I thought that's where you were going with the Revelation thing, because it's kind of like Revelation, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
It's not like he's not praying for that. He knows that's going to happen, and he's just telling them, hey, this is what's going to happen next. You're going to be victorious, and all of these evil people are going to burn.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's not like, oh man, I hope God helps. He's like, no, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. So what he prays for, what I'm saying is that his primacy for Paul is like not the situation itself. It's what's happening to people in their souls, in their spirits, in their hearts because of the situation. Mm-hmm. And I think that's good or ill, right? Like here he's talking to people that are enduring hardship, and he's saying, he's reminding them, right? He doesn't have to tell them it's hard. He doesn't have to say, man, what you're going through really stinks, right? Like, he doesn't have to say that. What he said, what he does need, what they probably do need reminding of is, hey, in the midst of this hardship, your faith is on display. You're being a witness, okay? And in the midst of that, it's not only being on display, but it's growing. You're more faithful now than you were before all this stuff started.
And that encourages them to be more faithful.
Yeah, yeah. But also too, let's remember that Paul shares a lot of this stuff with them, right? So he too is a person that undergoes hardship, right? So if we pull back into this lens of like what's his spirituality, like his perspective, his posture in all this, Paul sees what's happening in these other people, and then he internalizes. I mean, think about how he internalizes that too, right? I mean, think about it for him. Paul himself goes through hardship and trial and persecution, and he's saying to these other people, "Hey, you're going through persecution, and I can see that your faith is growing in that." Well, what does that mean about what's persecution doing to him? I mean, to me, those things are connected, right? And obviously they're connected when he's teaching to other churches too, because he's telling the other churches, "Hey, check out what's going on with these guys."
And it's something that he knows firsthand. Is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And he can point out in other people.
Well, he's probably affected by it too, right? Yeah. How can he, Paul the Apostle, who has shared the gospel with these people, who's given witness and proclaimed the gospel to them, and they're holding up?
Yeah, he can't give.
How much more so does he?
Sure.
I mean, that's part of his. That's part of his faith too. And for us, like when I'm telling my kids, "Hey, this is a challenge. This is an obstacle. Grit through it." I can't be like letting little things kind of get me down, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying to just pretend. I mean, authentically, it makes me think of, oh yeah, this is important for me too.
Yeah. Yeah, and just being honest, right? We want our kids, like in difficult times, it's okay to be like, man, this is really difficult. Like, I'm struggling or whatever. It's just like, mostly for us, it's like the attitudes and the things that, they start nipping at each other and stuff like that, right?
Right.
And so, and that's how we got to do the same thing, like you're saying. So when we're going through that stuff, we can't just start yelling at everyone around us and lose our temper.
Our kids got into some poison ivy.
Yes.
Together. Deacon and Lucy went to the doctor and got a shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Hannah got a shot and she got some cream.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So there's all kinds of poison ivy treatments going on in Settler's Trace right now. Okay. Well, Deacon and I were talking about it, Deacon and Lucy and I were talking about it, and Lucy said that I think now Deacon asked me, I said, yeah, I've had to do that before too. I've had to get those shots and take those pills that you're having to take. And he said, you had to get the shot too? And I was like, yeah. He's like, did you cry when you got the shot? And I was like, Probably.
Probably like your age.
You know, like I've actually had this guy. I had
Yeah.
lots of shots like this in my life, and you know, recently, the last time I got a shot, no, I didn't. You know, I did not weep. You know, but I was like, yeah, man. When I was your age, I'm sure I did, because it's really normal. You know, it just hurts, and it's okay. It's okay for that to hurt. You know, but at the same time, you know, I'm like we're having that conversation about like what it means to undergo something unpleasant, and I want to offer him, you know.
Yeah. Well,
And it's going to be all right, man. You know.
Yeah, empathy.
Yeah, empathy.
Right. Yeah. As opposed
empathy and teaching all together.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Yeah. But when I do that, like it also reminds me of maybe not the shot.
Yeah. But then once you say that to him, you can't turn around and be like, "No, you can't cry when you get this shot." Right.
Right.
You just
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, I also have to say, like, if I'm undergoing some kind of like, you know, weird little difficulties, like I have to discipline myself to kind of, you know, act in the sort of way that.
Not cry.
Yeah, well, not just that has some grit to it.
Yeah.
You know? And anyway, okay. Well, that's the time, brother. We did not get. I just wanted to talk.
I
about
thought we were going to get through
stuff.
2 Thessalonians.
We're not remotely close to getting through it.
What did we talk about? Where did we
I'm
get
so sorry
caught
for laughing
up?
so loudly, Rob. I know that's difficult to control the audio when I laugh like that.
Well,
yeah, we got through 4 verses. So at this rate, we'll be doing 2 Thessalonians.
you know, I feel like we talked a little bit about
Several
the second part of the
We're going to come back and we'll do some more 2 Thessalonians.
Okay.
But not next week. Okay, and next week we'll be away. I'm going to be out of town for the holiday or the spring break, you know, so we're going to forego having class next week.
Okay.
But we will come back the week after that. I cannot tell you the dates. The 24th-ish. 21st is Sunday. Right. So 22nd, 23rd.
Yeah,
the 24th. We'll come back on the 24th. We'll wrap up 2 Thessalonians. Okay, and then
we're getting close to the end,
very
right?
Close,
There's not that many more.
We have the pastoral epistles. You know,
Have
really
we
what's
decided what we're doing next?
Timothy and Titus. Not yet.
Okay.
But I mean, maybe we'll just keep
We've
going.
talked about a few things.
Maybe we'll keep going in 2 Thessalonians for
at this rate.
4 or 5 months. I don't think it's really urgent that we think about what's next.
Yeah.
Okay, hey guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Okay, and thanks for our production team for helping make things run smoothly tonight. That was really seemed like it went really well. So.
Yeah, I think it did. I don't know whether to look at the camera or to look at you because I'm having a conversation with you, but I'm also having a conversation with you.
With you.
And you.
Listen, we're glad that you're here. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you in a couple of weeks. Okay? Grace and peace.
Bye.
You know, one of the more difficult things is that we don't have an off button.
Yeah. We could still be going right now.
We have to let